Okay. So we are live within 20 seconds. Okay.
Okay.
मैं आपको होस्ट के राइट दे देता हूँ सर. आपका जब हो जाए उसके बाद मुझे बता दीजिएगा. मुझे वापस होस्ट बना देना.
You are the host now. आ गया यहाँ.
So welcome back, students. We are live within 20 seconds. Okay. 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 आपको होस्ट के राइट दे देता हूँ सर. So students, we are live on the YouTube as well as we are back with Dominic sir today. आज हमारे साथ Dominic sir हैं. Dominic sir is a well-known English grammar sir. So welcome back, students. We are live within 20 seconds. Okay. 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 आपको host के right से देता हूँ sir.
Rico is coming.
Students, we are live on the YouTube as well as we are back with.
Hello. Okay, एक मिनट.
So hello student. एक्चुअली थोड़ा टेक्निकल इशू के कारण हम लोग थोड़ा डिले हो गए हैं. So today, welcome back all the students of community. Today we have Dominic sir on the board, which is going to study, learn. वो हमको बताने वाले हैं कि कैसे figures of speech जो है वो आपको अपने not on the standard you are studying, which has, but आपको और भी चीजों में काम आता है in the English. So basic वो हमें 6 to 12 के सारे जो फंडास हैं हमारे फिगर्स ऑफ स्पीच के रिलेटेड वो आज सारे क्लियर कर देने वाले हैं, which is exciting as well. So Dominic sir, hello. myself Atul Sharma, as you know, हम लोग पहले मिल चुके हैं. Okay, and let's just
Okay.
yes. तो शुरू करते हैं सर. थोड़ा बच्चों को बताइए क्या क्या है फिगर्स ऑफ स्पीच में, हम क्या क्या सीख पाएंगे और कहाँ वो चीज हमें अवेलेबल हो पाएगी.
Sure. Thank you, Adul. I'm going to share the screen.
Yes,
now.
yes.
All right. Okay. First of all, welcome to all of you, and for our today's program, and we are going to learn something related. Actually, figures of speech is a pretty big topic. According to me, around 3 or 4 days of class would be required for this minimum, plus lifelong XP. We're going to practice. A lot of practice will be required. Something not like any other thing. You need to keep on practicing it a lot. Otherwise, grammar and figures of speech is something you will keep forgetting it. So we have a maximum within 40 minutes for today. Whatever we can complete, I'm going to do it today, and remaining we can do gradually as and how according to our time would be there, would be suitable. So first of all, let me just introduce figures of speech, what this figures of speech is, and how many of them. We are not going to discuss all of them right now. Whatever within the limited time period, how much we can complete, I don't know. That depends upon our time, technical errors or technical problems, in case there is any, all such things would be there. But in spite of all that, let me see how many we can finish within the limited time. So welcome once again all of you to figures of speech. Okay, now we have, first of all, let's try to understand what is figures of speech. Figures of speech is a skillful use of the language in order to create a striking impression. That is, instead of using a very solo language, if we have to make a language more expressive, meaningful, to make it more attractive, in short, we can say figures of speech are the ingredients that is added to make our language tastier, more pleasant to hear, more accurate, more meaningful. The figures are so called because they imply more than what the words literally mean. Because one thing, just understand that figures of speech would be having, when we sometimes mainly in poetry, when you read, there would be two figures. Implication would be two. They contain literal meaning and figurative meaning. You should never be going for the literal meaning. You should go for the figurative meaning. Figurative meaning, perhaps kind of an image, an idea or something through words, is created by the speaker. So don't go for the literal meaning, but go by the figurative meaning. For example, look at the example. Give me a hand does not mean that you have to chop off your hand and give it to the person. Give me a hand meaning help me. That's what we have to understand by this. Now, this figures of speech change ordinary language through repetition, through substitution, comparison, sound, and wordplay. So these are by very carefully chosen words, and you are using that particular type of those words in order to create a striking impression in your language. So these figures of speech are, broadly speaking, they are classified into on resemblance, where you have got simile, metaphor, personification, apostrophe, alliteration, repetition, and tautology have been used. When we use figures of speech for based on contrast, we have antithesis, oxymoron, irony, epigram, and paradox. Based on association, we have metonymy and synecdoche. Based on construction, climax, anticlimax, hyperbole, litotes, euphemism, transferred epithet, pun, onomatopoeia, interrogation, exclamation, apostrophe, and internal rhyme. These are some of the most commonly used figures of speech. On this broad classification, we are going to study one by one of these. But how many of these we will be able to complete today? That is quite doubtful. I don't know. I don't know whether I'll be able to complete them all today, but I'll try my level best to finish it maximum in a simplified manner. Okay. So we have simile. You have got two, both simile and metaphor, both are comparisons. But first, let's understand simile. It's a comparison made between two unlike objects, both having at least one common point of similarity. Two different objects, but some similarity would be there. We are trying to strike that similarity. Here is made in simile. We make the comparison by using like or as. Example, it was like having butterflies in my stomach. So it was like having. So this word use like over here. Okay, this word like, something that you need to keep in mind. So it was like having butterflies in my stomach, meaning sometimes suppose you are first to something, or rather you are just going for an interview later, or going for your board examination, those 10 standard students, etc. Then you may feel a bit of uneasiness. A bit of uneasiness, kind of a different type of feeling in the stomach. That's why having butterflies in your stomach. The moon came up like silver steeped in blood is another example. Here, if you notice, the moon and silver are the two different things. But when a silver is steeped in blood, it will look more reddish. Or rather, when the moon is rising in the east, as the sun sets, the entire eastern horizon is almost in an orange glow or a reddish glow. So when the moon is rising through that eastern horizon, through the eastern horizon, at the evening time, along with the setting of the sun, that's what the poet means by the moon came up like silver steeped in blood. So comparison between the moon at its rising time in the evening and the silver in reddish color. Life like a dome of many colored glass stains the white radiance of eternity. Here the poet is comparing life to a dome. Dome means actually something like that. This dome is colored with so many glasses of different colors. So when the rays of the sun fall into it on the dome, those rays will be reflecting the color on the dome here. So life like a dome of many colored glass stains the white radiance of eternity. His voice was propertied as all the tuned spheres. This all spoken about Julius Caesar. His delights were dolphin-like. In the poem, it is about Julius Caesar and a dolphin. So how a dolphin is happy in the water and jumping up in the ocean, same manner, he was also expressing his happiness. Self-reliant like a cat that takes the prey private. Okay, a cat is self-reliant, like that we too should be self-reliant, not depending upon any. So these are some of the examples of simile, where comparison made between two different objects. But here we use the words like or as in order to express that comparison. That is what simile is. Now we have a person of metaphor. Okay, metaphor is also comparison between two different objects. Okay, metaphor is also used to express comparison between two different things. that aren't obviously alike. But here both are considered to be one and the same, which means we are not using like or as. We consider both as two different objects are considered to be one and the same. He is the apple of my eye. So here, he is the apple of my eye. When a person speaks about that, it's no real apple in a person's eye, but it is the apple is someone beloved and held dear. So you are very important to me in my life. You are the apple of my eye means the light of my life. A person described by this metaphor isn't really providing physical light. He or she is just someone who brings happiness or joy. So you can say, you are the light of my life or the apple of my eye, showing the importance of that person. Now, all the world's a stage. Shakespeare. Time is a thief. Time is compared here to a thief, meaning time passes away or comes like a thief without you noticing it. Gradually, it will come and disappear. That's what time is a thief. So these are some of the examples of metaphor. Just understand only one thing, that metaphor and simile both are comparison between two different things. But in both the cases, we consider both as one and the same in metaphor. You use words like as or like in simile. Just see here. Both metaphors and similes express comparisons between two things that are obviously alike. In a simile, the comparison is stated explicitly with the help of a word such as like or as. That's what in simile. My love is like a red, red rose. So the poet compares his beloved to a red rose that is newly sprung in June. So here, the love, meaning the beloved of the poet, plus the red rose is compared to be, that's what actually the comparison over here. His beloved is compared to a red rose. On the other hand, if you go to metaphor, two things are linked or equated without using like or as. That is, both are considered to be one and the same. Love is a rose, but you better don't pluck it. Okay, you're not like a rose. Love is a rose. That's over. What's the next comment? Is a warning to youngsters. So we have a metaphor and simile. I suppose all of you are clear with it. Moving further ahead, we have a personification. We have personification. Okay. Two objects, inanimate objects or abstract notions, are given attribution of human qualities like intelligence, strength, and knowledge. So we have inanimate objects, objects that are inanimate, without life, things without life, abstract notions, ideas that are very abstract. For example, you take example death, are given attribution of human qualities. So when we speak attribution, they are actually abstract notions or inanimate objects are given human qualities and then spoken of as though having intelligence, knowledge, and perception. That's what you have to understand. Personification, in personification, to things other than human beings, you ascribe certain human qualities. For example, we have see, most of the time I meditate on the opposite wall. This is actually, those who know the poetry, you will be understanding. Sylvia Plath, in her poem Mirror, is telling about a mirror that is all the time looking onto the wall, the opposite side. So according to the poet, the mirror is most of the time meditating on the wall that is opposite. So to meditating is actually something like in deep thought. So the mirror is having the human quality of being able to meditate. Or sometimes if we visit certain cities like Mumbai, or even certain parts of Ahmedabad as well, the city that never sleeps. Sleeping is Okay, animals do sleep, but the abstract notions, ideas, city never sleeps, meaning always one or the activity going on in the city. Howling wind. Actions speak louder than words. Speaking is very much a human quality. Actions are given the quality of being able to speak. Or rather, we can see Sylvia Plath's Mirror, P.B. Shelley's Ode to the West Wind. All these are such poems where a lot of personifications are being used. You can read that one and then find out. For example, in the Ode to the West Wind, you get destroyer or preserver, the wind. Chariotist, as though coming on a chariot, like that number of them are there. So like that, a number of examples can be found in these poems as well. Here is a very good example of figures of speech, of personification. My Town is a poem by Sharon Hendricks. The leaves on the ground danced in the wind. The brook sang merrily as it went on its way. The fence post gossiped and watched cars go by, which winged at each other just to say hi. The traffic lights yelled, stop, slow, go. The tires gripped the road as if clinging to life. The sudden break that the vehicles catch. Stars in the sky blinked and winked out, while the hail was as sharp as a knife. So if you notice, all these lines, the first 6 lines, 7 lines are there, except the last line. You can use all the lines are very good example of personification. Leaves are given the quality of being able to dance. Brook, that's a river, is given the quality of singing happily as it flows down the hill. A fence post is actually able to gossip when nothing else to do, people do it. And winking at each other. Traffic light yelling, a very common example. Stop, slow, is the traffic junction. So like that, you have a number of examples are there of personification. And we tend to use these figures of speech in our writings, in our speech, so that they give a lot of beauty and exact meaning to whatever you want to express. Next one is apostrophe. Apostrophe, just understand, it's a direct address made to a thing, a place, an abstract quality, an idea, or a dead or an absent person, as if present and is capable of understanding. Meaning, suppose somebody is absent. Just imagine when somebody is absent, and then you are addressing it as though the person is present. So it's a very good example of person. So abstract notions, absent persons, dead person, to a place or thing, or an abstract quality. For example, death. Be not proud. So death is given an abstract quality of being able to listen to you. And so you are telling death, be not proud. It's taken from one of the poems. Look at the other examples. Hello, darkness, my good friend. I have come to talk with you again. Just imagine a person who enjoys solitude in life. A person who enjoys solitude in the darkness. You're speaking to the darkness as though he's speaking to a friend. It's an abstract notion given human quality of being able to listen to you. Or what you all have studied in the nursery rhyme. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. How I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. You all have learned it, but you learned an apostrophe in the lower, what you can in the primary section, or rather it can be in the what you can call nursery sections. So these are all apostrophe. Directly the poet is addressing directly to something that is absent, dead, an abstract idea quality, a thing or a place, as though it is in front of you and you are able to listen to it. That's what apostrophe is. Example, further examples of apostrophe. Death be not proud by John Donne is a poem by John Donne. Death be not proud, though somehow called thee mighty and dreadful. For thou art not so, for those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow, die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou me. So it's a poem that John Donne challenging death. You cannot have control over me. And don't think you're proud. Okay. So here it's a very good example of apostrophe. Death is given, an abstract notion is given as though it is present like a person and listening to it. Or in The Ocean by Lord Byron, roll on thou deep and dark blue ocean, roll. So the poet looking at the waves in the ocean moving, he tells the ocean, roll on, the deep and dark blue ocean you roll. Or Shakespeare in Romeo and Juliet, when Juliet believes she is alone and addresses Romeo thinking that he is absent. Oh, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore thou art thou, Romeo? So these are all actually very good examples of apostrophes. Now we have completed simile, metaphor, personification, apostrophe. I suppose this many are you're following all these what I have been explaining it. Anybody, any clarification required up to here? The 4 figures of speech we have completed. Next one is alliteration. Now, alliteration is a repetition of consonant sounds, especially in the beginning of words. In the beginning of the words, when a consonant sound is used, I don't mean letters, consonant sound is used repeatedly in different words on the same line, then that will be alliteration. Around the rugged rocks, the rugged rascal run. Ra, R sound, ra sound is used throughout. So this is an example of alliteration. In the same manner, you have also got assonance, where vowel sound is repeated. In alliteration, we have a consonant sound getting repeated. Okay. In alliteration, we have a consonant sound getting repeated. Whereas, so in alliteration, consonant sound, in assonance, vowel sound is repeated. For example, always, alert, accidents, avert. Sound is repeated over here. Then that is assonance. When weeds in the wheels shoot long and the lovely and lush. So you have got weeds and wheels, W sound is repeated, lovely and lush, L sound is repeated. Alliteration. The fair breeze blew, the white foam flew, and the furrow followed free. Very common or famous line, these are. Okay, very famous and common line, these are taken from the by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, Rime of the Ancient Mariner. George Orwell in Hanging. I watched the bear brown, ba sound is repeated. Back to the prison, marching in front of me. So that ba sound is repeated. So these are alliteration when consonant sounds are repeated. Assonance, on the other hand, is vowel sound repeated. Okay. Next, repetition. So we found repeating a vowel sound, repeating a consonant sound, alliteration, assonance. And then now we are on to repetition, where the words are repeated. In a single line, repeated usage of words or groups of words in the same sentence or line to create a poetic effect. That's a repetition. Words are repeated. So we have, I hope to see my pilot face to face. So the words face to face, 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 same word is repeated within a single line, then it is a repetition. Oh, my love's like a red, red rose. Blow, blow the winter wind. Okay, these are all. So words are words, except for us, they are not personalities. Okay, words are words, same word repeated. So these are all some of the examples of repetition. I repeat once again, repetition meaning when same word is repeated within a single sentence or a single line. Assonance, I have already explained this one. Assonance. Answer me with another antonym acute. A sound is again repeated over here. Assonance is vowel sound repeated. So the difference between alliteration and assonance. The difference between alliteration and assonance is both create sound effects. Alliteration through the repetition of an initial consonant sound, as in a peck of pickled pepper, sound repeated. And assonance through the repetition of similar vowel sounds in neighboring words, nearby words. It beats as it sweeps, as it cleans. Sound is repeated as. Next year, we are moving further to tautology. That's next one. Needless repetition of the same sense by using different words in the same line or sentence. That means unnecessarily, but it creates a poetic effect. It creates a poetic effect, but it's a needless repetition. Without that, also the meaning will be complete. Redundancy due to superfluous qualifications or saying the same thing twice by using different words, meaning different words of the same meaning is used. It's nothing but repeated use of words or phrases that have the same meaning. That's what you have to understand by tautology. Look at the example. Children gathered in round circles. I suppose we have not seen a circle which is not round. So if all the circles are round, there is redundancy, meaning unnecessary usage. A circle is round, so we don't have to use it. Both the meanings, both mean the same only. So children gathered round in round circle. So this type of usage, circle and round, both do mean the same thing. This type of use is tautology. And related to that, I would like to say one thing, that very often we hear people using, I returned, sometimes it may be there, or about himself, back. Now, to return means either to go back or to give something back. The word back is already here. Along with that, we are using this one also, return back, which is actually not required in language. Returned means back only. Sometimes you can hear in people using it, please return back. Come back, and again one more back is added over here. So this type of uses, I would not call it tautology, but I would call it a blunder. It's a mistake. We don't use it. We don't have to use it. Just say please return or come back. Because return and back, we don't have to use it. Now here, say it once, say it again once more. To say it again, meaning only once more. This type of bits and pieces. So this type of usage where unnecessarily you use different words of the same meaning within a single sentence, you can call it tautology. Next one. Oxymoron. Now, there is two contradictory or opposing terms are used together to give a single effect. It is seemingly contradictory terms appearing side by side, giving a single effect. Because I don't have to tell you, suppose I say bright darkness. On a full moon night, suppose I am outside on a seashore, I can call it a bright darkness because it is dark, night is supposed to be dark, but enough light is there for me to move about. So nothing is so invisible. Everything is not totally blanketed in darkness. Then I can say bright darkness. The darkness which is also wherein things are visible. But brightness is the opposite of darkness. So two opposite words are used together with a single effect. This type of usage is oxymoron. That's why contradictory or opposite terms used side by side to give a single effect. That is oxymoron. Examples. She accepted it as a kind cruelty of the surgeon's knife. Kind cruelty. The surgeon or the doctor was kind to treat the patient, but cruel, cutting a human body open is a human act. It's a cruel, not human, it's a cruel act. So kind cruelty. Because of the doctor's kindness, the cruel act of surgery is required. That's why kind cruelty. So she accepted it as a kind. So the kind cruelty is an example of oxymoron. Next one. We very often we said, yeah, how was your behavior in the class? Somebody asked you, pretty ugly, we can say it. Pretty is beautiful. Ugly is the opposite of that. Or sometimes you get, okay. Sometimes while discussion is going on, yeah, even I too noticed the same difference. Same is the opposite of difference, but things will become meaningful only how and when you use it. Okay, at particular situations, these type of expressions would be more powerful than any other words to be used. So same difference. Student teacher. Okay, more common thing is deafening silence. Deafening silence is actually the situation is so silent that it attracts everyone's attention. Then you can call it deafening silence. Old news. Oh, nowadays, as the experience is going on, almost 2 years or something, we are entering into with the coronavirus, with the COVID-19 virus. Nowadays, to some extent, it is becoming an old news. When we heard it a year and a half back about its in the initial stages, it was a news. Now it is becoming an old news and people are getting used to it. So you can use it. It's an old news now, although we need to be careful. Oh, miserable abundance of beggarly riches. Again, John Donne. Miserable abundance, beggarly rich. Both are oxymorons. His honor rooted and dishonested, and faith unfaithful kept him falsely true. Faith unfaithful, falsely true. These are all oxymorons. A yawn may be defined as a silent yell. And you know what is yawning? When you actually, what you can call, feel bored. I don't know how many of you are yawning right now. Irony. Here, there are actually different types of ironies. Okay, when words are used to convey the opposite of their literal meaning, meaning you say one thing, but you mean something else, then that is irony. Look at the two examples being used over there. It's something like what you can call one of the identical twins saying to the other, you are ugly. If you think you can understand the meaning, identical twins that look alike, that's when identical twins. So when one of the identical twin telling to the other, you are ugly, means you can understand that one. Or rather, the next example, never argue with a fool. People might not know the difference. And that's why sometimes, very often, wise men remain silent very often. Never argue with a fool. People do not know the difference whether he is a fool or you are a fool. So these are all examples of irony in which you mean the opposite of what you say. In this irony, actually, there is still more to be explained, like situational irony, etc., which all I'm not going into right now because this is the first level of class. As I told you earlier, minimum 4 to 5 classes will be required for figures of speech to some extent to understand this, all the 25, 26 of them. And then the other ones are still further long way to be explained. Okay. Epigram. When certain brief pointed saying are used to introduce antithetical ideas which excite surprise and arrest attention, it is called the epigram. So just in short terms or in very simple terms, you can understand it's a very pointed saying. Few words, but to the point it would be given. Very brief, very pointed saying, but it would be having what you can call an antithetical idea in it. Opposite ideas would be there. That is used primarily to arrest to get the attention of the listeners. Very often in speeches, we can hear, or in writings also to some extent, or in speeches and all, we can hear people using it. This epigrammatic uses. The more corrupt the state, the more numerous the laws. That's a very meaningful thing. That is what it means is when a state or the government or the administrative body becomes more corrupt, they're corrupt in order to hide their falsification, in order to hide their corruption, they create more and more laws. So the more corrupt the state, the more numerous laws. Very true when it had been written about the French monarchical or the Bourbon dynasty in France before the revolution. No one is completely unhappy at the failure of his best friend. If you look at the meaning, you can understand. You may be considered to be the best friend, but sometimes what happens? No one is completely unhappy. Unhappy and no one. Two opposites are giving a positive meaning. Means everybody will feel to some, frankly speaking. Frankly means very honest answer. That everybody will feel a bit within, it's good that he is a failure. But God forbid, that is not a good nature. Fools rush in where angels fear to tread. Another true, very true example it is. Because fools don't think. They think everything is easy, everything is going to be possible. They rush in where angels fear to tread. These are all brief pointed saying having a lot of meaning in it. He makes no friend who never made a foe. Because the good friend, if you are, even sometimes you will turn to be a foe, because you cannot be goody with everyone. You cannot be goody with everyone. So in that case, he makes no friend whom never made a foe. So it's actually also a very much fact it is. Epigram. Paradox is a figure of speech in which a statement appears to contradict itself. Self-contradictory statement. Self-contradict, which means a statement within it, a contradiction may be found. Contradiction meaning opposite understanding will be generated. Within a single line or a single sentence, an opposite or contradictory opinion or feeling would be generated, then that is paradox within the same sentence. But it contains a truth. It also contains a truth. In political circles, it can be often seen. Ceaseless aspiring, ceaseless content. The poet watching a fountain. Watching a fountain, which actually what happens, the water is just gushing out and then it comes down. Again, the water gushing up and then coming down. So it never stops. The poet watches it for some time and then he is looking at it and then making the poem. He's saying that ceaseless aspiring, ceaseless content. Ceaseless, unending content, satisfaction. But it is aspiring to reach higher and higher. It is aspiring to reach higher and higher, but it is always satisfied with wherever it is or whatever it is, whatever its condition. So this type of statement is paradox. Mighty hearts are held in slender chains. War is peace. Mighty and slender are opposite. War is peace. Very often you can hear countries declaring war on others so that peace can be established. But war is never an answer. It only brings about misery. But the saying war is peace, very true. Freedom is slavery. Because you are restricted. Even the exercise of freedom, you are restricted. So freedom is slavery. War is peace. Ignorance is strength, but not always. Okay, ignorance is strength. That is, sometimes after committing a mistake, you cannot say, oh, I did not know it. Okay, after committing a mistake, you cannot say, I did not know it. All right. So after committing a crime, if you say, I did not know it, and if you are saved from punishment, then let me tell you, ignorance is strength. But George Orwell's 1984 book, if you read, you'll see it. Nobody goes to that restaurant because it is too crowded. If nobody goes, how can it be crowded? That's a self-contradiction. Nobody goes there because there are certain hotels or certain restaurants, certain places where so much a crowd would be there. So what happens? People have a tendency to move away from that. Okay. So from that, you can say that's actually kind of a self-contradictory statement. Say nobody goes to the restaurant because it is too crowded. You can save money by spending it. And that is investment. So these are all paradox. Antithesis is a use of opposite words or contrasting words or ideas side by side in a sentence or line for emphasis. So antithesis, one idea put against another idea. Then only you can call it antithesis. Something like oxymoron, but in oxymoron you are using words with opposite words within a single line, but they are coming so close by. Together, a single application is created in oxymoron. Whereas in antithesis, opposite words or contrasting words are used for emphasis. Give every man the ear, but few thy voice. So every and few. Opposite words are used within. Many are called and but few are chosen. Many and few. To err is human, to forgive divine. Again, opposite. Human and divine. To err, to forgive. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. Charles Dickens, in The Tale of Two Cities, he has used it. So here, best and worst, wisdom and foolishness. These are all actually the ways how antithesis used, or upward or downward, thy motion, thy rest. The poet looking at the fountain, again he makes it upward or downward, thy motion, thy rest. So motion and rest, upward or downward, antithesis, different or opposite words used within a single line. Metonymy. It's a figure of speech in which one word or phrase is substituted for another, with which it is closely associated, such as crown for royalty. Names of the attributed thing is substituted for the thing itself. So we have a, let's say, in metonymy, there are different forms of using it. A substitution of name. For example, there can be crown for the power of a king. White House, referring to the American administration. Like that, substitution of the name is taking place. Dish, to refer to the entire plate of food. Pentagon, Department of Defense, and the offices of the US Armed Forces. So sometimes the news you can hear, according to Pentagon, which means the nerve center of one of the foremost powerful centers in the world. Pen is used for the person who uses it. Pen is mightier than sword. Sword means military force. Pen means the written word, that is, writer can be more powerful to bring about more changes in people than a soldier. Hollywood or Bollywood, give me a hand, means give me a help. So these are all some of the examples of these ones. And more examples of metonymy can be seen over here. Cradle to the grave implies infancy to children, infancy to childhood, cradle to the grave. Scepter or crown for king, the chair for chairman, bench for the judge, or maybe for the instrument for the agent you have got. A pen is mightier than sword. It's learned person is more powerful than those who are fighting with the sword. Yes. Then pen is mightier than sword. Container for the thing contained, kettle boils. Like the number of metonymy has got a lot more of this what you can go uses. So many variations are there. All that only by usage you will be understanding it. And friends, right now what I feel, even if I go further, it will not be over in today's lecture. So I prefer to stop over here right now. And then in case anybody has any further doubt, can ask me right now related to this. If there is any further doubt, you can ask me. And you can put in the chat box also if there is any doubt that you need to ask. You can put in the chat box as well. Okay. Fine. Then so thank you for so far for attending, and then further class will be informed later.